broadcast tonight, clamor for constitution amendment. President Kenyatta gives the clearest sign that the BBI process will culminate to a change of some clauses of the 2010 constitution. Uhuru says we might right the wrongs of the 2010 document. Leaders allied to Deputy President William Ruto have been opposing the BBI process. Also tonight, relief for hoteliers. President Uhuru Kenyatta says his government will refocus its attention on the crumbling hospitality industry. He had ordered an initial 2 billion shillings exchequer support to hotels and related establishments to ensure they maintain their staff complement. A week ago, he announced a soft loan package for hotels through Tourism Finance Corporation. Plus, a unique Madaraka Day celebration. Tonight, we show how Kenyans and the nation celebrated the 57th anniversary of internal self-rule. COVID-19 has indeed changed everything. The Deputy President, William Ruto, knows it firsthand.
And inadvertently, I stretched my hand to my young daughter to greet her. She told me, there is the sanitizer.
An extreme landlord. Tonight we tell you why tenants in this city building are having it rough amidst COVID-19 ravages that have left so many people jobless or hefty salary cuts. A rent delayed here will leave you regret why you ever picked on living here.
This is TV47 News Tonight with Abubakar Abdullahi.
Good evening and welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter this evening is Ann Wairemu. To our top story. Now, a constitutional amendment is inevitable if President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech at State House today is anything to go by. The president says he has been discerning for constitutional changes to right the wrongs in the 2010 constitution. President Kenyatta has also called for a change in the national political architecture, decrying the culture of political selfishness and not selflessness. Aaron Kipkwech begins our broadcast tonight.
State House, Nairobi, the venue for Kenya's 57th Madaraka Day celebrations. The least colorful event in Madaraka Day celebrations history.
God bless Kenya.
Nonetheless, the president's speech was as rich as others in the past. In his speech on Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta pushed for, among other things, amendments to the 2010 Constitution.
I am already discerning a constitutional moment, and I want to be clear, not a moment to replace the 2010 Constitution, but one to improve on it. A moment that will right what we didn't get correct in 2010.
The president's remarks come at a time when the country is on a break in the push for the constitution changes through the BBI initiative. The BBI initiative has, however, been a major source of differences among leaders. The president and his deputy too have differed on the BBI process. But when making his 8th Madaraka Day speech as president, Uhuru Kenyatta also called for a change in political architecture in the country.
We cannot reimagine our nationhood also without changing our political architecture. But we cannot change this architecture without re-engineering our constitution.
Uhuru also took a swipe at politicians whose intentions are driven by self-interest and not the public good.
We need political leaders totally committed to promoting not themselves, but what will transform lives of our people in line with what our founding fathers yearned for. Indeed, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, "We need political leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity."
The State House Madaraka Day celebration event was attended by, among other, opposition leader Raila Odinga, Deputy President William Ruto, and ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi. Aaron Kipkoech, TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, President Uhuru Kenyatta has allocated 2 billion shillings that will be directed to the hospitality sector, which has been greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. President Kenyatta said that the money will enable hotels and other related sectors to keep their staff. Kenyatta has also directed the Ministries of Health and that of Interior and Education to fast-track talks of measures meant to guide the reopening of schools and places of worship in keeping with COVID-19 measures. Zablon Masharia with the details.
Our national response to the coronavirus pandemic, because I will be addressing you again on this issue in a few days to come.
Its declaration by President Uhuru Kenyatta that was long awaited by Kenyans will have to wait longer for good news. Speaking during the 57th Madaraka Day celebration at State House, Nairobi, President Uhuru Kenyatta has directed the Ministry of Education to hasten discussion with other stakeholders in order to come with a solution and guidance on reopening of schools.
I am hereby directing that the Ministry of Education fast-tracks and finalizes the ongoing consultations with all stakeholders that will provide us with an appropriate calendar for the gradual resumption of education in the country. The guidelines should also include protocols to be followed by all learning institutions.
And as the doors in places of worship remain shut, President Uhuru Kenyatta has called upon the Ministry of Interior and that of Health to continue engaging with the religious leaders to ensure that there will be more participatory way reopening in keeping with COVID-19 containment measures.
Continue and hasten their engagement with religious leaders across the country with the objective of developing protocols that will be adopted to guide a more participatory way of worship while guaranteeing the safety of worshippers.
President Uhuru Kenyatta also announced a 2 billion shilling kitty for hotels and other related sectors to cushion their staff from the ongoing mass layoff. President also congratulated health professions and security officers who have been the front line in fight the pandemic. Zablon Masharia, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, thank you, Zablon Masharia, for that report. Can we say the unexpected happened at State House today? Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta after a long time, and they seemed to gel well despite the ongoing political fights in Jubilee Party. And as Andrin Kilemi reports, the two donned identical outfits.
For the first time in more than a month, Deputy President William Ruto was making a public appearance, this time at the House on the Hill. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy were meeting at the backdrop of the ongoing Jubilee Party purge that has seen Ruto allies axed from party committee positions in the Senate. But their interactions right after Madaraka Day celebrations were far from the expected. The duo exchanged light moments, and yes, they even had identical outfits.
57 years ago, Kenyans made sacrifices for us to have the most important thing in life, that is to make decisions for ourselves and to chart our destiny. We have had a journey of 57 years, and every generation and every government have had to grapple with tough decisions when faced with challenges as a nation.
President Uhuru Kenyatta was quick to criticize politicians who are already rising the political temperatures in the country, urging them to instead focus on development.
as we reflect on the progress we have made, as we look inwards for self-introspection, we must not over-criticize ourselves. And I say so because in the subconscious mind, we become what we repeatedly do. If we repeatedly feed our national psyche with negative energy, we become an nation of angry and frustrated people. Yet dreams cannot flourish in a negative environment whose main currency is anger and animosity.
Sources reveal that the two leaders had a meeting over the weekend and whatever was discussed is still unknown. On May 1st, during the Labor Day celebrations, Deputy President William Ruto did not attend the function that was also held at State House. He had also been loudly silent on the purge taking place in the Jubilee Party, targeting leaders believed to be his allies. Andrine Kilemi for TV47.
Thank you, Andrine Kilemi, for that report. Elsewhere, many Embu Township residents followed the Madaraka Day celebrations at State House from the comfort of their homes. And as the president rose to address the nation, many expected to hear about the curfew and remedies on job losses. Moigi William tells us why many will sleep a dejected lot tonight.
The 57th Madaraka Day was marked in a different way across the nation, with many relying on their television sets, social media platforms and radio stations to get to hear President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech. Unlike the other years, Kenyans will flock in different stadiums across the nation to mark such national days, but with the first spreading invisible virus, many remained in their homes.
Madaraka ya leo imekuwa na tofauti kubwa sana, sababu madaraka nyingine tunaenda kuonea town, zingine tunaenda kwa uwanja, hata nyingine nimewahi kuwa live kuiona. Lakini ya leo imekuwa na tofauti, lakini tumeiwatch kwangu kwa nyumba yote na familia yangu.
The kind of rate kuko na infections za corona. Imekuwa the best idea kwetu ili tuje tupunguze ni kwa moja wa kupunguza hii corona kusambaa.
However, keenly following the president's address through different communication platforms, including social media, many Kenyans were hoping for one thing. They wanted the president to address the dusk to dawn curfew measures.
Nataraji rais leo atafungua lockdown hizi kwenye barabara imefungwa kama Chania pale Thika. Si ndio sisi watu kama wa huku Embu tunaweza kwenda Nairobi kununua vitu na kurudi huku, kwa sababu wakati huu ni mgumu sana.
Pesa ndio hiyo imeenda sasa, lakini naona tu atafungua ile siku alisema tarehe 6.
For the young men who we got a chance to talk to, the most pressing issue to them is the high rate of unemployment, which President Uhuru did not categorically give a solution to.
Nilikuwa nangoja kusikia president hata akijaribu kuguzilia more of the youth wa kawaida, na still bado sijatosheka bado.
Kama sasa ukiona mambo ya crime imeenda juu na pesa pia vijana hawana. So mtu akikosa pesa anaenda kuwa mwizi, unaenda unaiba.
President Kenyatta, however, enumerated various measures his administration has taken to caution the economy and avert more job losses. Among them is a 2 billion shilling kitty for hotels. Mwege William, TV47.
Elsewhere, this year's unique Madaraka Day celebrations were held at State House, Nairobi, with a guest list of 46 only due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our reporter Linda Alela did a spot check on places where the normal locations otherwise would have been held and has filed the following report.
The country commemorates the 57th Madaraka Day, but this time around a little bit different, courtesy of the COVID-19 pandemic that the global fraternity is dealing with. Walking to a deserted Nyayo National Stadium, contrary to what you'd have expected on a normal occasion. First time in history, Madaraka Day is being celebrated virtually, no sturdier gatherings. Zero crowds of people accessing the Nyayo National Stadium, empty and folded seats. No vendors that would traditionally position themselves to sell foodstuffs at the entrance. Clearly, it's not business as usual. Kenyans have been forced to celebrate Madaraka Day differently, if at all there were celebrations or anything to celebrate about. The only traces of Madaraka Day were the buildings draped with the national flag and the fighter jets that made a fly past for the guests at State House, Nairobi. Another key feature on Madaraka Day celebrations is this: God bless Kenya. Manna hanging from this military helicopter and the franked 3 others from the 50th Battalion of the Kenya Air Army. Many Kenyans, however, chose to carry on with their errands, perhaps under pressures exerted on them by the ravages of COVID-19. Others seemed to long for the usual celebrations where they could throng sport arenas. They found themselves at Uhuru Park, possibly hoping for activities no matter how minimal, while others came for the usual breeze at the park.
Wakati zilikuwa na tamasha Uhuru Park, nilikuwa nakuja hapa. Sababu nilikuwa nataka kuona jeshi. Sana si ati hotuba au nini, nilikuwa kuona jeshi na fly past. Ndio ilikuwa ni kitu kinanifurahisha sana mpaka leo.
Na sherehe tumekuwa nazo tangia hapo awali imekuwa tofauti sana na ya leo. Sababu siku zote tumezoea tunaenda mahali, at least tunajienjoy, tunakuwa na hiyo time, tunakuwa na unity.
I too decided to revive the good old days. After all, it's a special Madaraka Day. Shangilia Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda daima, Kenya tunayoipenda daima. Hawkers, on the other hand, had nothing to be happy about. Many made minimal sales, if not nothing at all. Their would-be customers were at home.
Kama kuna celebration kama hii, sometimes naenda kwa Nyayo Stadium. Na baraka kama ni ndizi tu peke yake. Sikuwa nauza hata mananasi. Nifira hakuna job sasa. Sasa nikaanza nipatie watoto before walala njaa. Sasa napatia tu nice.
The virtual Madaraka Day celebrations started at 8 a.m. with a guest list of only 46 dignitaries at State House, Nairobi.
Hawa ndio mambo yote na hakuna wananchi. Ngikaa hivyo tu. Tuikumbuke hiyo siku.
Things have been and will continue to be different until a time when the virus curve will flatten or a vaccine against the deadly COVID-19 is found. Every other year, Madaraka Day will be commemorated with celebrations across the country. But as you have seen, this time round it's a little bit different as the world continues to battle COVID-19. Reporting for TV47 at Uhuru Park, Nairobi, I am Linda Alela.
Thank you, Linda Alela, for that report, and more than the report, for the first time I've seen your musical talent nonetheless. It's 1/4 past the hour, time for us to take a short break here on TV47 News Tonight. With me, Abubakar Abdullahi. We'll be back with more news after this break. Today, let's have a look at the breakdown of the numbers. At least 59 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours. This, of course, has divided in the counties of Nairobi registering 29 cases, Mombasa 14, Turkana 6, Busia 4, Taita Taveta 2, Kajiado 2, Kiambu 1, Kilifi 1. Because those are the numbers that have been registered today. There was no public press briefing due to Madaraka Day, of course. But nonetheless, these are the divisions of numbers in as far as Nairobi is concerned. Ruaraka recording 8 cases, Westlands 6, Dagoretti North 4, Langata 4, Kibra 3, Embakasi East 1, Kasarani 1, Makadara 1. Those are the breakdown of numbers and as far as Nairobi County is concerned. Let's move on and have a look at the breakdown of numbers in Mombasa County. Mvita has recorded 6 cases, Kisauni registering 2, Nyali 2, Jomvu 2, Changamwe 2. Because those as well being the breakdown of numbers and as far as Mombasa County is concerned. The country registering 59 new cases today. There was no public address to announce the numbers, but nonetheless, according to a communication sent to the newsrooms, to the media in general, the ministry, of course, continues tonight to caution Kenyans to observe the Ministry of Health guidelines and, of course, adhere to the regulations. Moving on. Now, tenants at Jumama apartment in Nairobi West have decried what they say are harsh rental terms by their landlord amidst the ravages of COVID-19. They say their houses are often locked even when they delay in paying rents for a few days, especially during the coronavirus pandemic period. The landlord has, however, denied knowledge of harassment claims. Eli Lugova reports.
From a distance, these apartments look pleasing to the eyes. However, the story behind it is nothing worth smiling about. Jemuma Apartments, owned by one Juguna Kirubi in Nairobi West area, is said to have left its tenants in agony. Kevin Omari, not his real name, has been staying in these apartments for the past 1 year. He narrates the agony he has been going through as a tenant, pain echoed by others.
The houses, you would say from outside, look really good, but when you move in is when you realize what is really happening here, and actually you realize what has been happening and is still happening here. Okay, for instance, I'd say the condition of the houses is not so good. Even when you are coming into the house, most of the houses, you'll hear most of the tenants when they are moving in, the houses had issues that they were told that when you get in, you are going to they're going to get solved, yeah. But at the end of the day, they never get solved. In connection with those problems in the house, yeah. When you move out of these houses, for instance, the landlord expects you to fix the house, paint it, repair it, anything that is spoiled. And remember, you moved into a house that is not, a house that is not in good condition.
Further, Kevin says the landlord mistreats them to an extent of closing and welding their doors if they fail to pay rent after 5th of every month.
If you delay past 5th, of course, your house is welded. And for you to move back in, and this has also applied even during this corona period, you have to pay a 3,000 penalty. There's a 3,000 penalty on top of the normal rent, and an extra 3,000 for the electrician and the guys of welding. Now you're the person to pay them to come and weld the door. When you pay your rent, for instance, yeah, you expect a receipt back. It's something that can help you justify when you want to move out. They are not given here, and when you want to move out, you have to produce them. Because it intimidates you for the KRA pin. He had asked us for our career pins, and most of us said we are not going to give him. So he ended up switching off the lights, and here we use token lights that we have actually paid for. Electricity is free in Kenya, but he'll come and switch them off.
With the COVID-19 hit on the economy to Njuguna Kirubi, the owner of this apartment, business is as usual. To him, profits and rent matters. The owner of the apartments, Njuguna Kirubi, however, refuted these claims. In a text message, Njuguna says, and I quote, "I will propose to find out tomorrow and address any issues that be affecting them, and shall promptly resolve within the lease guidelines. Some of the affected tenants are set to move out on Tuesday." Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Assembly is expected to resume its sitting tomorrow after a month-long recess. The House resumes the same day that President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to chair a Jubilee parliamentary group meeting for members of the National Assembly. And as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, the meeting is likely to culminate in the removal of supposed party rebels from key House committees.
After a month-long recess, the National Assembly is expected to resume sittings on Tuesday. The MPs come back amid tensions in the Jubilee Party, where house cleaning exercise is ongoing. Also on Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to chair a meeting of Jubilee Party members of the National Assembly at State House, Nairobi. The meeting, just like the Senators' one, is likely to decide on the removal of party rebels from the leadership of several House committees. MPs likely to lose their positions in the House include Majority Leader Eden Duale, Eldas MP Eden Keinan, and Kienis Kanini Kega being touted as likely successors of Duale. Further, National Majority Whip Benjamin Washiali is said to be replaced by Navaholo MP Emmanuel Wangwe.
You know, somebody somewhere said Parliament is dead.
This comes even as Senate is expected to hold its election to pick a deputy speaker following Kithure Kindiki's ouster last week. According to the Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kangata, the party has resolved to support Uasin Gishu Senator Margaret Kamar after Kirinyaga Senator Charles Kibiro dropped out. 3 senators are expected to battle it out for the Senate Deputy Speaker's seat in an election set for Monday afternoon.
Senate Standing Order 19.5.
Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Nairobi.
Moving on, leaders from Mulembe Nation have castigated their NASA counterparts for causing a rift among Western Kenya leaders. Led by ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and Ford Kenya besieged party leader Moses Wetangula. They say that they will maintain unity in the region, welcoming anyone willing to join them. Lydia Gashomo reports.
For the 4th day in a row, leaders from Western Kenya held meetings and press conferences in the name of unity and party leadership squabbles. On Monday, another press conference was held, attended by over 30 leaders from Western Kenya, led by ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi, at the home of his besieged Ford Kenya counterpart, Moses Wetangula. These leaders blamed their NASA coalition partner Raila Odinga of ODM for perpetually dividing the Western region and driving a wedge in political parties.
We have repeatedly allowed him to be the compromise presidential candidate, even when we knew there were better candidates. We have treated him like the beloved brother we thought he was. But what has he done in turn? He has behaved like the rude guest who rattles the house and upsets his welcome.
The leaders of Mulembe Nation claim that despite supporting leaders from other regions, their counterparts are abusing that support.
Regardless of whatever position you have risen to, because of the goodwill of our people, we caution you not to presume that you can speak for us without our consent. In that regard, we state categorically that Francis Atwoli, Wycliffe Oparanya, and Eugene Wamalwa cannot speak for the Luhya people.
Ford Kenya's interim party leader, Moses Wetangula, has said that as Mulembe Nation, they are ready to move forward as a team despite the shake-up in his party.
If this country goes astray, we all suffer, regardless. And we want everybody to be part and parcel of the exciting times that lie ahead of us, and my brother and I are ready, willing, able, and have the capacity and ability to walk this journey with all Kenyans of goodwill.
ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has insisted that they are ready to receive anyone willing to join them regardless of their frosty relationships in the NASA coalition.
There are two people who can be very persuasive. One can be very persuasive with logic, but there could also be another one who is persuasive by putting a pistol on the table. What we are refusing is to be persuaded by the pistol on the table. We want to be persuaded by logic. Correct.
On Sunday, a breakaway factions of Ford Kenya announced it had removed Moses Wetangula as the party leader and replaced him with Kandui MP Wafula Wamunyinyi, a move that was almost immediately countered by another faction led by Moses Wetangula. Lydia Gashomo, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Lydia Gashomo, for that report. It's half an hour past the hour. Time for us to take a short break. We'll be back with more news after this break. Choosing to stay with us here on TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Moving on. When a leather industry was constructed in Buna town in Wajir County a decade ago, residents were optimistic of employment opportunities and economic benefits. A decade later, the town lacks electricity and the machines of the leather industry are rusting. Isadin Haji now reports from Buna, a town the same age as Thika town, but has long lagged behind in development.
It is a long journey on a rough terrain north of Wajir town. Hours later, we reached Buna, a hilly village. Here is where we joined the residents to listen to the 8-point economic stimulus program launched by the president. In this, government offices a kilometer out of the town amid COVID-19, only chiefs attended the ceremony. Here is where Patrick Mahero, the area deputy county commissioner, took charge to read the president's speech. Shortly after the end of the speech, Zainab Mohammed, Buna Sub-County Director of Education, paints a picture of how difficult quenching the thirst for education is in this part of the country.
The current curriculum that we are going through, the CBC, some of the lessons has to be brought together through the digital learning. The learner has to be introduced to the digital learning. The gadgets are available, but the use of the gadgets is failing us, and the failure is brought about by the lack of power.
We headed to the town to have a glimpse of how deep these challenges are. Despite being the same age with Thika town in Kiambu County, it looks like a deserted ancient village. Poor infrastructure and lack of electricity to power the town means there is little or no business at all.
Tumeweza kupata shinda mingi kupitia stima. Hapa tunaweza kutumia generator ambayo inatumia mafuta ya shilingi 400 kila siku. Na kurudisha hiyo ni changamoto.
Edward Mwendwa runs a kinyozi here, but his business is collapsing. We joined him as he was preparing to shave a customer. He tells us the state of his business.
Hata area hakuna stima. Na ukiwa hakuna stima, battery yangu yenye ninatumia hapa ama solar mara nyingi huwa inaharibika. Na ikiharibika, mimi sikuangi na kazi ya kufanya. Ninafunga kazi yangu na nyumba inahitaji nini? Pesa.
The hospital, schools and the police station in Buna are in darkness. There is no electricity. As a result of this, government operations are impending, halting normal running of activities in the town.
Within our offices, it is also a serious challenge. Some documents are confidential. They are not supposed to be printed outside. But because we do not have power and computers cannot run minus power, we are forced to source from outside, which many times exposes confidential documents to outsiders.
Mahali kama tannery, kuna mahali kama hospitali, wamama wanazalishwa, kuna police station, kuna AP, tuko na secondary school mbili ya wasichana na vijana. Kwa hivyo hiyo huduma hatuwezi pata kwa sababu hata hakuna mahali hata mtu anaweza enda hata kutoa hata printer moja ya cyber due to the hatuna stima.
We went to see the leather industry that the residents say is a failed project. Machines here have been abandoned. The only dream of the residents that this industry will create employment and raise the economy of the town has crumbled. Well, this is the leather industry in Buna town, which was constructed 10 years ago. Machines here have been left to rust without power running them. This is now a house that houses birds due to the openings that you can see up there. Abdinur Abdirahman, the only watchman for the plant, was employed by the county government years ago. He says he does not receive salary, but still never abandoned his duty to safeguard the property of his people.
Sasa nalisha watoto ni hata bibi ambaye na wajuzi. Just 5 months ago. Hata aliniwacha just because of lack of money. Because I'm working for government, there's no payment.
Sasa naona hali inakuwa shida kwa sababu hata kiboro wangu siwezi kufanya because day and night I am only watchman here. I am day and night worker. I don't have off. I don't have leave for 10 years. Sasa naweza kulisha watoto wangu kivipi sasa?
The pain of a town that has lost glory is clearly visible in its midst. Yet towns of its age enjoy good infrastructure and a booming industrial backyard. Poor leadership may be the ultimate answer to these challenges, but also reveals lack of commitment to complete projects at final stage, such as this leather industry.
Gamia ukishika tundo, hakuna kitu unabaki mbele. Sisi tunalomo kila kitu ni MB yetu. Kwa sababu hii MB ndio angeshughulika hii mambo ya Buna, mambo ya sintima Buna. Kama MB angelete sintima, hii kitu angefanyika kazi. Hii kitu angefanyika na yudi ya Buna angefaidika.
Poor access roads in the town also add salt to the wound. During rainy seasons, both main bridges connecting to Wajir town and Moyale are washed away, leaving the people with no food and clean water.
Bridge iko ambayo walijenga culvert box, ilijengwa culvert box. The culvert box itself, kuna maji inatoka Ethiopia inakuja kuflood this town. Na hiyo kitu flooding baka maji mahali mimi nasimama, maji ya laga inafika baka hapa na inapita.
During rainy, we hardly go even to Malkagufu. We are cut off by the bridge floods, and then we are even cut off from Moyale. There was a time we experienced very heavy rains, and we were cut off from both Wajir and Moyale. And so even life in Buna, the food was not even available.
It's the dry season now. Water levels are low and may dry up in a couple of weeks. The residents are now left to deal with the aftermath of the flash floods. But these flash floods might be impending and return any moment, and its reoccurrence could be lethal. Isadin Haji, TV47, Buna Sub-County, Wajir North.
Thank you, Isadin Haji, for that report from Wajir to Lamu, where hundreds of residents in Lamu County have been in the cold for the last 1 week after their homes were marooned by the raging floods that are causing havoc in the country. Residents here, Lamu, are now confined in their villages and depend entirely on relief as they are not able to move to safe grounds. Take a look.
Jalaluma tumeathirika pakubwa sana. Manyumba yamezama. Magonjwa ya matumbo yameanza kuonekana hapa na pale. Kina mama wanalia. Manyumba yamesombwa na maji, na ya kusikitisha tulikuwa hatuna hizi tarbala ya kujisaidia na blanketi.
Tawahisani yoyote ambaye ana msaada atakupeleka hizi sehemu zilizokuwa affected na flood. Sahi kuna boti inaweza peleka iko chakula. Msiogope mkasema acha mwezi peleka madawa, hakuna boti. Tafadhali sasa mnaweza kuja na hiyo boti ni moja, hata kama kuna mtu mwingine ana boti nyingine, tafadhali aongeze wale watu wasaidi kwa na shida sana.
Wazee, kina baba, kina babu, wote tunashindwa hata kwenda huko matano kutafuta chakula sababu njia kupitia kuna maji. Wengine hatuwezi. Kama mimi pia siwezi kwa sababu ninaogopa maji. Maji ni mengi. Hata sisi wanawake ni dhaifu kuliko wanaume. Wanaume wana nguvu, at least watapita. Lakini sisi wanawake hatuna hata pa kupita, hatuna hata pa kwenda, hakuna njia. Kiufupi tuko hapa.
Elsewhere, over 3,000 motorcyclists in Rwanda are being tested for COVID-19 as they prepare to resume work this June. The taxi motor riders are picked from different areas and tested in the ongoing efforts to ensure that there are no community infections of the virus in the country. TV47's correspondent in Rwanda, Diana Iriza, has more.
The taxi motors, which have not been carrying passengers since March 21st, will next week on June 1st resume their normal operations. The Rwandan government says that motorcycle operators are being picked from different neighborhoods and getting tested. It is said that these tests won't stop anytime soon. They will continue until there are no more community transmissions.
This is a particular group that is highly mobile and transported a lot of people in a very short timelines. That's why the risks have been assessed at different times. As Rwanda Biomedical Center and Ministry of Health, we've been conducting different surveys, both to the clients, potential clients of the motorcycles and drivers themselves. As we speak, we've been testing a number of them randomly to see if there are no virus moving or circulating in those groups. So as soon as we detect a positive case, we will proceed as usual to trace contacts and isolate and treat.
Tony Kulamba, the General Manager of Transport at the Rwanda Utility and Regulatory Agency, says that besides preventive measures such as washing hands, wearing face masks and maintaining the 1 meter distance, passengers will be required to pay for their trips using their mobile phones, and that cash payments will be greatly discouraged.
There is no exchange of cash, physical cash. Transaction should be made electronically, using Airtel money, MTN mobile money. There is no reason why we should handle money from hand to hand. It's very risky, and there is no reason. We are lucky we have the cashless facilities around with us. So we are encouraging both the motorcyclists and the passengers to embrace that. Encourage those who can buy helmets, personal helmets. It's a lot safer to have your own helmet. There are people who can afford to get them, so encourage them to, because people will be using motor transport all the time. Why not buy your own? And I think
a study conducted by Rwanda Utility and Regulatory Agency shows that motorcycle taxis make up 60% of the public transport. There are approximately 45,000 taxi motors in Rwanda. About 26,000 of these are based in the city of Kigali. Diana Iriza, Kigali, Rwanda.
Thank you, Diana, for that report. Violence has continued in cities across the U.S. on the 6th night of protests sparked by the death of George Floyd, a black American who died in police custody. Lexi Kimani. Now, but enjoy the rest of our programs.
The coronavirus is spreading rapidly across the world, and currently there is no cure or vaccine against it. It spreads through tiny droplets when infected people speak, cough, or sneeze. These droplets can land on surfaces to be picked up by hands and are impossible to